Ladies and gentlemen, let me begin by asking you a question. What separates the person who wins from the person who merely participates? Is it talent, resources, intelligence? No. The true dividing line is mindset. Every successful person you admire, whether in business, sports, innovation, or the arts, start at the same place we all do, with uncertainty, with doubt, and with no guarantee of success. The one thing they had that changed everything was a winning mindset. The mindset of a winner is not born, it is trained. It is a system of beliefs and daily habits that shape how one sees the world and responds to it. It's the inner framework that dictates resilience in the face of setbacks, clarity in moments of chaos, and discipline when comfort seems easier. Now, let's be clear, having a winning mindset doesn't mean you never feel fear. It doesn't mean you always have the answers. It means that when the pressure is high and the path unclear, you stay committed to thinking in a way that moves you forward, not one that holds you back. So how exactly do successful people think daily? First, they wake up with intention. They don't stumble into their day, they step into it. Before the world has a chance to dictate their agenda, they've already defined their purpose. That doesn't mean every day is mapped to perfection, but it does mean every day starts with clarity. They understand that drifting leads to distraction. Second, successful people ask better questions. Where most people ask, what if I fail? What can I learn from this? Where others see problems, they see patterns, opportunities, and chances to grow. Their mindset isn't wired to avoid discomfort. It's designed to process discomfort and convert it into progress. Third, they think long-term. We live in a world addicted to speed, quick wins, fast fame, instant success. But winners understand that the real reward lies in delayed gratification. They invest today for a return that may take years because they know consistency compounds. Fourth, they take responsibility, not just for what they control, but for what they influence. They don't pass blame, they create solutions. They don't say, I had no choice. They say, this is what I chose to do, given the circumstances. Responsibility is not about fault, it's about power. And people with a winning mindset never give their power away. And finally, they protect their minds like they protect their physical health. They curate the voices they listen to, the media they consume, the people they spend time with, because they know thoughts become beliefs and beliefs become behavior. If you allow noise to infect your focus, you invite mediocrity into your potential. Now imagine if you adopted just one of these mental patterns. Imagine if for the next 30 days, you started your mornings with intention or asked better questions or said, this is my responsibility instead of this is not fair. Do you realize how dramatically that could change your trajectory? Winning is not a moment. It's not a title. It's not a trophy. Winning is a habit. It's a decision repeated every single day. It's a mindset you build, not one you wait for. So if you truly want to succeed, don't chase what winners have. Chase how winners think. And eventually, what they have will find its way to you. Thank you. A 5 keynotes of the speech, winners begin their day with clarity and intention, not reaction. They ask empowering questions and turn discomfort into growth. They think long-term, embracing delayed gratification over instant results. They take full responsibility for their actions and choices, gaining power instead of blaming. They actively protect and train their mindset by curating what influences their thoughts. Winners begin their day with clarity and intention, not reaction. This one principle, though it may seem simple, creates a fundamental shift in how individuals approach life goals and decision-making. The difference between reacting to the world and responding with purpose defines how effectively someone uses their time, energy, and focus. Successful people do not leave the tone of their day to chance. They don't begin by checking their phones, diving into social media, or answering emails that pull their attention in 20 different directions. Instead, they take command of their morning. They understand that the first hour after waking up is sacred. It's a time to align with their goals, center themselves emotionally, and create clarity about what truly matters. Clarity in the morning is not just about scheduling or listing tasks. It's about connecting to purpose. A winner wakes up and asks themselves not, what do I have to do today? But what am I working toward today? This shift may appear subtle, but it transforms everything. When you begin with a list of obligations, you approach your day from a place of pressure and exhaustion. When you begin with a vision or mission, you bring energy, direction, and conviction into every activity that follows. This mindset allows successful people to say no to distractions, filter out noise, and focus only on what brings meaningful results. They aren't just busy, they're intentional. They're not moving fast without direction. They are moving deliberately toward their vision. People who live in reaction mode often feel behind. They feel like the world is pulling them in every direction, and they never quite catch up. They're overwhelmed, not because they have too much to do, but because they don't know what matters most. A winner avoids this trap by creating stillness before movement. That stillness may look like meditation, journaling, reading, or simply sitting in silence while visualizing the day ahead. These practices aren't about being trendy. They're about taking control of the internal world before stepping into the external one. And when your inner world is calm, focused, and grounded, you make better decisions, handle stress with more grace, and move with a sense of authority and self-trust. Intention is a skill, and like any skill, it must be practiced. It doesn't matter how late you stayed up or how many tasks are pending. When you wake up and reclaim your mindset, you set the tone for your entire life. People with winning mindsets don't need perfect circumstances to be productive. They use rituals to bring their mind into alignment. It could be as simple as reviewing their goals, affirming their beliefs, or reminding themselves of their greater mission. This doesn't require hours. It requires focus. A few minutes of clarity in the morning can prevent hours of distraction later in the day. Another reason winners start their day with intention is that they understand the cost of mental clutter. When your mind is full of tasks, worries, and external demands, creativity dies. Strategic thinking disappears. You become a machine, not a leader. Starting your day with clarity is not just about performance, it's about identity. You're choosing to identify as someone who leads themselves before they lead others. Someone who drives their life rather than being driven by it. That choice builds confidence. Confidence isn't about ego, it's the result of keeping promises to yourself. And the first promise you keep is how you begin your day. This habit also impacts how winners view setbacks. If your day begins with reaction, every obstacle feels like a disruption. If your day begins with clarity, those same obstacles become manageable. Why? Because you are anchored. You are not floating through your schedule, hoping to stay afloat. You are grounded in your why. And when you know why you're doing something, resistance can't break you. It can only sharpen you. Winners train their mind to remember the mission before the chaos begins. In a world that rewards speed, winners prioritize depth. They don't rush into their day hoping to get it all done. They step into it knowing what matters most, and they let everything else fade into the background. This doesn't mean they avoid challenges. It means they meet challenges from a place of stability, not panic. They understand that a chaotic morning creates a reactive mind, and a reactive mind makes poor choices. They protect their morning not because they are rigid, but because they are intentional. That intention is the compass that guides the rest of their day. Ultimately, the habit of beginning each day with clarity and intention creates a long-term advantage that compounds over time. Each day starts with alignment. Each action becomes purposeful. And over months and years, that repeated alignment builds a life of results, fulfillment, and resilience. Winners know that success doesn't begin with a strategy. It begins with a mindset, and that mindset begins with how you wake up and face the world one day at a time. They ask empowering questions and turn discomfort into growth. This is one of the core traits that separate successful individuals from the rest. When challenges arise, most people instinctively ask questions that lead to fear, doubt, and avoidance. They ask, why is this happening to me? Or what if I fail? These questions keep them stuck in a loop of worry and helplessness. But winners take a different route. They ask, what can I learn from this? Or how can this make me better? It's not that they enjoy failure or setbacks. It's that they have trained themselves to extract value from every uncomfortable situation. Their mindset doesn't default to avoidance, it defaults to growth. This pattern of thinking doesn't happen by accident. It's a deliberate practice. Winners know that the quality of their questions shapes the quality of their mindset. If you ask questions rooted in fear, your mind searches for limitations. If you ask questions rooted in possibility, your mind starts searching for solutions. The brain is a powerful tool. It will find whatever you tell it to look for. Ask poor questions and you'll get discouraging answers. Ask empowering ones and your perspective shifts. Discomfort is a constant in any journey worth taking. No one achieves greatness in a straight line of comfort. But how we process discomfort determines whether it breaks us or builds us. People with winning mindsets don't fear discomfort because they understand what lies on the other side of it. They've learned to see temporary pain as a gateway to long-term strength. When something doesn't go as planned, they don't spiral into self-pity. Instead, they zoom out, analyze the situation, and ask themselves what this experience is teaching them. That doesn't mean they never feel discouraged. It means they don't stay discouraged. Turning discomfort into growth also means being honest with yourself. It requires the humility to admit when something isn't working and the courage to change direction. Winners don't cling to broken strategies out of pride. They ask, what's the smarter move? Instead of how can I prove I was right? Their ego doesn't drive their decisions, curiosity does. And curiosity is one of the most underutilized tools in personal development. Curiosity opens the door to innovation, adaptation, and reinvention. It leads people out of frustration into progress. This way of thinking also makes winners exceptional under pressure. When the stakes are high, most people default to survival mode. But those with a winner's mindset remain calm and inquisitive. They don't collapse under the weight of a problem. They slow down, breathe, and ask questions like, what's within my control right now? Or what would someone I admire do in this moment? This helps them move from panic to presence. And from presence, they make decisions that reflect clarity, not chaos. One of the most remarkable things about the mindset of a winner is that they do not shy away from failure. They embrace it as feedback. They ask, what didn't work and why? Instead of why am I not good enough? That one shift turns a perceived loss into data, and data is valuable. With enough data, they improve their process. And with an improved process, they increase their chances of winning. Most people take failure personally. Winners take it professionally. They see it as part of the path, not the end of the road. Another powerful question winners often ask is, what else could this mean? Instead of assuming the worst, they explore alternate explanations. Maybe a delay isn't a punishment, it's preparation. Maybe a rejection isn't a sign to quit, it's a redirection to something better. This mental flexibility allows them to stay resilient when life doesn't follow their timeline. It gives them the psychological strength to keep moving forward with hope, even when outcomes are uncertain. Even in relationships and leadership, asking empowering questions plays a major role. Winners ask people around them, how can I support you better? Or what are your goals and how can we align? They don't assume. They seek to understand. They use questions not to interrogate, but to connect. That's why people are drawn to follow them. Their mindset isn't just focused on winning individually. It's focused on creating environments where everyone can grow. Ultimately, this daily habit of asking better questions becomes second nature. It reshapes how winners experience the world. Where others see problems, they see patterns. Where others see pressure, they see potential. They've trained themselves to see discomfort not as a stop sign, but as a signal to lean in, learn, and level up. The questions they ask are like a compass. And because they ask better questions, they always find better answers. They think long-term, embracing delayed gratification over instant results. This is one of the most defining characteristics of successful people. In a world that glorifies overnight success and quick wins, those who truly build something meaningful understand the value of patience, consistency, and sustained effort. They don't chase what feels good in the moment. They pursue what matters in the long run. This mindset allows them to resist distractions, remain focused through uncertainty, and keep going even when progress seems invisible. It's not that they don't feel the pull of immediate rewards. It's that they've developed the discipline to choose what's meaningful over what's convenient. Thinking long-term is a conscious choice. It requires a clear vision of where you want to go, paired with the daily courage to take small, sometimes unnoticeable steps in that direction. Winners don't just think about today. They think about how today affects tomorrow. They understand that every action, habit, and decision compounds over time. And that's the beauty of long-term thinking. It turns small wins into massive outcomes when given enough time. Most people quit too early because they judge the value of their efforts by immediate results. Winners stay the course because they understand that growth isn't always visible at first. Seeds take time to sprout, but they keep planting, nurturing, and believing. In a fast-paced world, patience is often misunderstood as passivity. But there is a difference between waiting and preparing. Winners don't sit back and hope success finds them. They work steadily, improve constantly, and evolve patiently. They know that the best things in life take time. Whether it's building a business, mastering a skill, or developing character, they're willing to stay in the process. They don't demand instant validation for their work. They trust that the process itself will refine them, and that excellence is the result of what they build when no one is watching. While others chase recognition, they chase growth. Delayed gratification also requires emotional maturity. It means choosing to endure discomfort now in exchange for a bigger reward later. It means turning down the easier option so that your future self benefits. This might mean saying no to impulsive spending so you can invest. It might mean resisting distractions so you can deepen your focus. It might mean sacrificing comfort so you can stretch your limits. People with a winning mindset don't fear these trade-offs because they understand that short-term sacrifices are necessary for long-term gain. They've learned to fall in love with the process even when the results are delayed. This way of thinking also builds resilience. When you're committed to the long game, setbacks don't discourage you the same way they discourage someone who's only in it for quick wins. A temporary loss isn't the end, it's just a step. Winners expect challenges. They know that anything worth building will be tested. And because they're focused on a larger timeline, they don't make decisions based on emotions or temporary frustrations. They pause, reassess, adjust, and continue. Their eyes are on the horizon, not the potholes. Thinking long-term isn't about being rigid with one plan. It's about being loyal to a larger vision while flexible with your methods. Winners are always willing to adapt, but they never lose sight of where they're headed. They measure progress in years, not minutes. They know that growth happens in layers. You may not see it immediately, but it's there in your habits, in your mindset, in the way you show up. They're building something that will last, not something that just looks good temporarily. Even in relationships and leadership, this principle applies. Winners invest in trust over time. They don't manipulate people for short-term approval. They lead with integrity even when it costs them. Because they know that reputation, trust, and impact are earned over years, not moments. This also affects how they view success. It's not a finish line they race toward. It's a journey of becoming. The more they grow, the more they realize that delayed gratification doesn't feel like sacrifice. It feels like wisdom. This mindset transforms the way winners operate every single day. It gives them clarity in decision, making power over distractions, and strength in uncertainty. They know the difference between what feels good and what builds greatness. And every time they choose the long game, they compound their advantage. Over time, the gap between them and those who live for the moment becomes wider, not because they're more talented, but because they were willing to wait. They were willing to work while others looked for shortcuts. They were willing to delay gratification. And in doing so, they gained something far more valuable, real lasting success. They take full responsibility for their actions and choices, gaining power instead of blaming. This mindset is foundational to the way successful people navigate both their inner world and their external environment. When you truly own your life, every decision, every reaction, every outcome, you place yourself in a position of strength. Responsibility doesn't mean that everything is your fault. It means that regardless of what happens, you acknowledge your role, your response, and your ability to influence what comes next. People with a winning mindset do not give away their power by blaming circumstances, other people, or fate. They understand that blame may feel comforting in the short term, but it weakens you over time. It creates a habit of helplessness. Winners refuse to play that game. The moment you say, "It's not my fault," you've made yourself a bystander in your own life. You're waiting for someone else to fix what's broken. But when you say, "This is my responsibility," you activate a different part of your mind. You begin looking for ways to learn, adapt, and move forward. This internal shift is not just about integrity, it's about effectiveness. Winners don't waste time pointing fingers. They get to work. They ask themselves, what could I have done differently? Or what do I need to change moving forward? They are less concerned with being right and more focused on getting better. That is the essence of growth. Taking responsibility also builds trust, both with others and within yourself. When you consistently own your behavior, people around you begin to respect your word. But even more importantly, you begin to respect yourself. You create an internal standard that says, "I don't run from my choices, I face them." This builds confidence, not because everything always goes well, but because you know you can handle it when it doesn't. You stop fearing mistakes because you've trained yourself to turn mistakes into lessons. That kind of self-leadership is rare, and it's what separates people who rise from those who repeat the same patterns. Winners also apply this mindset when things go wrong. It's easy to take responsibility when everything is going well. But what about when you miss the mark, when someone betrays you, when the plan falls apart? This is where the winning mindset truly shows itself. Instead of falling into bitterness or victimhood, winners ask themselves, what role did I play? Not to shame themselves, but to reclaim their power. Maybe they ignored red flags. Maybe they lacked preparation. Maybe they failed to communicate clearly. Whatever the cause, they take ownership. And in doing so, they become wiser and stronger. This doesn't mean winners don't hold others accountable. It means they focus first on what they can control. They don't obsess over what others did. They concentrate on how they can respond. That response is where real power lies. Anyone can complain. Few have the discipline to look inward and say, what can I do better next time? That discipline is a skill, and successful people develop it deliberately. Over time, it becomes part of who they are. They don't seek pity. They seek progress. They don't wait for the world to change. They change themselves to impact the world. Even in situations that are clearly unfair, winners look for ways to grow. Life isn't always just, people will sometimes treat you badly for no reason. But a winning mindset says, I can't control them, but I can control what I learn, how I grow, and who I become because of it. That's not weakness, that's strength. That's not passivity. It's power. Because instead of being defined by your setbacks, you use them to sharpen your mindset. You become the kind of person who refuses to be broken no matter the pressure. This level of personal accountability also extends to relationships and leadership. When something goes wrong in a team, winners don't look for someone to blame. They look for how they may have contributed. Did they set the right expectations? Did they communicate clearly? Did they lead by example? They know that leadership isn't about control, it's about responsibility. And when they take that responsibility seriously, they become the kind of leaders people trust and follow. Ultimately, responsibility becomes a way of life. It's not something you turn on when it's convenient. It's a mindset that says, I am in charge of my outcomes. I am responsible for how I respond. And I will not give that responsibility away for the comfort of excuses. When you live this way, you move through the world differently. You don't fear challenges, you engage them. You don't avoid feedback, you seek it. You don't make excuses, you make adjustments. And that is why winners keep winning. They carry the weight of their lives with strength. And because of that, they grow stronger with every step. They actively protect and train their mindset by curating what influences their thoughts. This is one of the most intentional habits successful people practice every single day. They understand that the mind, like the body, is shaped by what it consumes. Just as you wouldn't eat junk food every day and expect to be physically fit, you can't flood your mind with negativity, distractions, and meaningless content and expect to stay focused, inspired, and resilient. Winners are fiercely selective about what enters their mental space. They know that everything they see, hear, read, and absorb is shaping their beliefs, their emotions, and ultimately their actions. A winning mindset is not a fixed trait. It's a cultivated environment. And the environment you create mentally is just as important as the one you create physically. If you are constantly surrounded by doubt, criticism, fear, or drama, those thoughts will start to feel normal. Eventually, they become part of your self-talk. Winners know this, which is why they deliberately choose input that uplifts, challenges, and sharpens them. Whether it's through books, mentors, podcasts, conversations, or even the social media they follow, every source of input is intentional. They don't just consume content to stay entertained, they consume to stay empowered. This discipline to protect your mindset requires self-awareness. You have to pay attention to how things make you feel. If a news headline immediately triggers anxiety, or if scrolling through your feed leads to comparison and envy, you have to ask yourself, is this helping me grow or holding me back? Winners don't wait until damage is done. They cut off toxic input before it becomes habitual. They unfollow accounts that drain their energy. They limit conversations that revolve around gossip, complaints, or hopelessness. They walk away from people who repeatedly bring chaos into their world, not because they're better than them, but because they value their mental health too much to compromise it. Training your mindset also involves feeding it consistently with the thoughts you want to live by. Winners don't wait for motivation to appear. They create it by immersing themselves in principles, stories, and perspectives that keep them aligned. They listen to voices that remind them who they are and what they are capable of. They read the same book chapters, replay powerful talks, and revisit their goals, not because they forgot them, but because repetition is how belief is built. A winning mindset is not a spark. It's a flame that must be fueled regularly or it will go out. Another part of this mental training is reflection. Winners carve out time to check in with their thoughts. They ask themselves, what have I been thinking about most lately? Or is my mind working for me or against me right now? They know that if you don't monitor your thinking, it will drift. And a drifting mind rarely ends up in a good place. This habit of checking in helps them recalibrate. If they've been thinking in ways that generate fear, comparison, or doubt, they don't ignore it, they correct it. They replace those thoughts with more useful, grounded, and empowering beliefs. It's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing thoughts that support growth, even in the middle of imperfection. Winners also train their mindset by creating mental space. They understand that clarity needs room to exist. In a world of noise and constant stimulation, silence has become a superpower. That's why many successful people incorporate solitude into their routines. Whether it's through early morning quiet journaling, nature walks, or technology-free time, they give their mind space to think, process, and reset. They don't fill every minute with activity. They allow pauses because in those pauses, the most powerful ideas, insights, and decisions often emerge. One of the most powerful things about protecting your mindset is that it becomes a form of emotional immunity. Life will still throw challenges at you. People will still disappoint you. But when your mind is fortified, you don't collapse, you adapt. You don't absorb negativity, you deflect it. You don't let one bad moment turn into a bad day or a bad week. You have the inner strength to hold your perspective steady because you've trained your thoughts to respond rather than react. This kind of discipline doesn't eliminate problems, but it gives you a major advantage in how you deal with them. Winners know that your outer world is often a reflection of your inner world. If your mind is cluttered, fearful, or unfocused, that will show up in your actions. But if your mind is clear, strong, and focused, your decisions and results will reflect that strength. This is why they treat their mindset like a sacred space, because it is. It's the foundation upon which everything else is built. They don't leave it unguarded. They don't let the world decide what they believe. They train it, protect it, and feed it with intention. And over time, that intentionality becomes their greatest asset. The mindset of a winner isn't built overnight. It's forged through daily habits, intentional thoughts, and unwavering discipline. Successful people think differently not because they're more gifted, but because they've made a choice to lead themselves from the inside out. They begin each day with purpose. Ask questions that empower rather than paralyze. Stay committed to the long game. Take full ownership of their actions. And fiercely guard the thoughts they allow into their minds. These aren't occasional actions, they're a way of life. And the truth is, this mindset is available to anyone willing to commit to it. You don't need perfect conditions or extraordinary talent. What you need is the decision to think like a winner, act like a winner, and live like one, starting now, starting today, and repeating it every single day that follows. Because in the end, it's not the world that shapes your success. It's your mindset that shapes the world you create.